Have you ever just looked at someone like Elon Musk and wondered, how on earth does one person master so many different things? I mean, we're talking software, then rockets, then electric cars. It honestly seems impossible. But what if it's not a superpower? What if it's a method? Well, today, we're going to break down the 5-step learning framework that Elon Musk uses, taken straight from Walter Isaacson's amazing biography, that lets him learn pretty much anything, way faster than most.
So to really get the scale of this, you have to go back to the very beginning of SpaceX. Picture this. Musk flies to Russia. He's trying to buy some old rockets to, get this, send a greenhouse to Mars. The Russians? They're not impressed. At all. One of them actually spits on the ground near him, and another one just dismisses him with that quote, basically telling him he's just some kid with internet money who's completely out of his league.
And right there, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? He flies home, totally furious, but also, completely determined. On the flight back, he cracks open his laptop, starts a spreadsheet, and just says to his team, guys, I think we can build this thing ourselves. So how did he do it? How did he learn rocket science so incredibly fast that he could literally become the head engineer?
Okay, so fast forward a few years, SpaceX is really struggling. They've had 3 launches fail in a row, and Musk desperately needs money. He goes to his old friend, the investor Peter Thiel. Thiel is, pretty skeptical. He says, listen, before I even think about investing, I want to talk to your chief engineer. Musk just looks right at him and says, you are talking to the chief engineer. Can you imagine the look on Thiel's face? The software guy from PayPal was now the lead rocket scientist?
So how did he make that insane leap? Well, here's the thing. It turns out it wasn't some kind of innate genius. It was a system. When you really dig into his story, you see this clear, repeatable 5-step process that, honestly, anyone can learn from. It's a whole mindset built on speed, simplicity, and just a relentless refusal to accept how things are done. So let's break it down step by step.
All right, step 1. This first principle completely flips traditional engineering on its head. See, instead of spending years and years planning to avoid every possible failure, Musk's entire philosophy is to fail, but to do it really quickly, and on a small scale. This just supercharges the learning process, because every single failure gives you instant data. It's a lesson you learn in a few hours, not a few months.
And this slide really highlights that huge difference in thinking. The old military method is just paralyzed by analysis. They'll spend months testing one single material before they even start building. Musk's method? It's all about action. Build a simple version, see if it breaks, figure out why it broke, and then build the next one better. The speed of that feedback loop is what puts the learning into a whole different leap.
This bias for action is just legendary. There's this one story where a lightning strike puts a huge dent in a massive fuel tank. The engineers say it'll take months to get a replacement, which would delay a critical test. Musk's response? He tells them to climb up there with hammers and literally bang out the dent. They thought he was nuts, but they did it. They patched a few cracks, and guess what? The tank worked perfectly. That one simple decision saved them 4 months.
Now, Musk didn't just lock himself in a room and try to reinvent physics from scratch. No way. His second principle for learning super fast is to absorb knowledge like a sponge, but to get it directly from the most powerful sources you can find, the top experts in the world, and the actual books and papers they wrote.
I mean, think about this. He basically hired his own teachers. He brought in these rocket experts like Tom Mueller and would just grill them with questions until he understood every single concept down to its core. He'd call up mentors for advice, and he read constantly. For years, he was always borrowing rocket textbooks from his employees, just absorbing everything he possibly could from the people who had already figured the stuff out.
The third pillar of his method is all about fighting that natural tendency to wait. In Musk's world, the default setting is to act immediately. While most companies are busy scheduling meetings to plan for some future action, Musk's instinct is to just compress that whole timeline and do the thing, right now. This urgency closes the gap between an idea and actually doing it, and that gap is where real learning happens.
Here is a perfect example. An engineer mentions that this old rocket test site in Texas is available from a bankrupt company. The team suggests, hey, we should probably check it out in a few days. Musk says, no, we're going now. They literally get in a plane, fly there that afternoon, and he calls the owner that same evening and leases it on the spot. This extreme sense of urgency accomplishes in one day what would take most other companies months of meetings and paperwork.
This one is one of his most famous mantras, and it's brilliant. Musk believed that complexity is the absolute enemy of speed. Every single part, every step in a process. Each one is a potential point of failure and a source of delay. So his goal is to aggressively, relentlessly delete anything that isn't absolutely essential.
He once found this huge bottleneck at the Tesla battery factory, and the thing holding everything up was a tiny, simple step, putting these little plastic caps on battery pins. He walks up and asks a very simple question: are these necessary? The engineers explain they're there to prevent damage. So Musk challenged them, just try removing the step. They did, and they discovered the pins weren't getting damaged at all. By just eliminating one tiny useless part, they unlocked the entire production line. And this brings us to the final and maybe the most powerful step of all. This is the foundation of his famous first principles thinking. Musk basically operates on the assumption that every requirement, every specification, every single rule someone gives him is wrong, until it's proven right by the fundamental laws of physics.
So early on at SpaceX, his team needed a specific kind of valve for the rocket. They go to a supplier who quotes them an absolutely astronomical price. Look at this, 1.5 crore rupees for a single part. The engineers were basically ready to accept this as, well, that's just the cost of doing business in aerospace. But Musk wasn't happy.
He told his team this was completely insane. He said the part looked like a garage door opener and challenged them to build it themselves for just 5 lakhs. I mean, the team thought it was impossible. But because they were forced to question the very nature of the part, they discovered they could just adapt a valve from a commercial car wash system, and it worked perfectly. That right there is first principles thinking in action.
So there you have it. It's not magic, right? It's a framework. It all starts with being willing to fail fast. Then you learn directly from the best sources you can find. You fuel it all with an extreme sense of urgency, you keep it lean by simplifying everything, and you guide the whole process by questioning every single assumption. That's how he goes from being laughed out of Russia to leading the entire world in rocket technology.
And that really brings us to the main takeaway for you and me. This isn't just about building rockets, not at all. It's a way of thinking that you can apply to almost anything. It really makes you wonder, what's the equivalent of that super expensive valve in your world? What process are you following just because that's how it's always been done? What if you questioned it?